Amazing. Well, thank you to everybody who is joining us this morning for our Healthcare and Pharmaceutical Management Program webinar as a part of our CBS Experience series here at Columbia Business School in the admission office. We are so excited to have you all, and we're so excited to be joined by some of our fabulous colleagues in the Healthcare and Pharmaceutical Management Program, an alumni and a current student. So we've got a lot of really incredible folks here to connect and share their perspectives on this fabulous program. So just to get started, we'll go over a quick bit of an agenda so you know what you're in store for. So we'll start with a welcome, which is what this is. So welcome again, and some introductions. I should mention my name is Maura Bonini. I work in the admission office here at Columbia Business School as an assistant director, but I will turn it over to our fabulous colleagues in the Healthcare and Pharmaceutical Management Program soon to do their introductions. Then we'll do a little bit of a program overview. So really just getting an idea of what this program entails, what some of their offerings are. Then we'll get to hear from two amazing current and previous students who have gone through this program and taken part in it. And then we will have time at the end for Q&A. So don't worry if you have questions, we will have ample time to answer them. Please go ahead and utilize the Q&A box throughout the session. I will be keeping an eye on it. And then at the end, I will pose the questions to our wonderful panelists. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I will pass it over to Professor Chan to start, since you are first on this introduction slide. So please, thank you so much again.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to see how many people are interested in healthcare at CBS. So we're excited to share a little bit about what the program has to offer. I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about myself. Mara, if you want to go to the next slide. So I am a professor in the Decision Risk and Operations Division and the faculty director of the Healthcare and Pharmaceutical Management Program. I've been at CBS since 2010. When I am not in the classroom, my research focuses on using data-driven analytics and math models to improve healthcare delivery. So I collaborate very closely with a lot of health systems in the area and across the country. I teach a number of MBA courses, both on the healthcare side of things, as well as in the core operations management. And I'm happy to share more about our curriculum later. And in my role as faculty director, I work very closely with our students to support them in terms of their curricular needs, their extracurricular needs, as well as working with our alumni and industry partners to really create the ecosystem that is healthcare within CBS. So I'm excited to share more about that with you, but I'll let my administrative team introduce themselves as well. So Shannon, do you want to start?
Good morning. My name is Shannon Ingram. Sorry, I don't normally sound like this. I'm the administrative director, and I have a vast amount of experience both in education and in healthcare roles. I am in charge of all of the operations for the HPM program, but I like to pride myself on student collaboration, creative strategies, and adding value where there can be added value. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Sam?
Thank you, Carrie. Hello, everyone. My name is Samantha Jean-Baptiste. I'm the Associate Director of the Healthcare and Pharmaceutical Management Program, working alongside Professor Chan and Shannon. And I, in my role, am responsible for coordinating, organizing majority of the events that sit under the HPM program. A few that are highlighted here, but there are many more, are the Healthcare Leadership Series and our Healthcare Spotlight Series, and we can go into more details about what both of those experiences are like, and also community engagement opportunities, curating those for students and alumni. So if you have any questions about any of those buckets or more, feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Sam. So we'll let Salone introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. So nice to see you all here. I'm originally from Mumbai in India, and my undergrad was in econ and finance. I started my career in consulting. That was my first job, was a great first job. But then most of my career before business school was at a growth equity fund called Lightrock in their India office, where I focused on healthcare investments. When I came into school, I was pretty sure I wanted to do healthcare private equity, and that's what I did for the summer. But I think as I'm figuring out what I want my life to look like after business school, I'm also thinking of maybe doing a corporate development at a healthcare startup. So yeah, I'll let you know in 6 months what I end up doing, but it's a work in progress. My fun fact is I was doing a consulting project in Muscat in Oman and made a bunch of friends there. And they were all like, yeah, we should definitely go cliff diving. And I was like, yeah, of course, I'm adventurous. I'll do it. Had never done cliff diving before. Went there, decided to jump, fell flat on my stomach, and was taken to the hospital. So it was fun, but I survived. But yeah, that's my fun fact. Handing it over to Vince.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Vincent LaRocca. I'm originally from Winfield Park, New Jersey, which is just about 35 minutes west of New York City. So I did my undergrad at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, where I studied statistics and econometrics. And then I went on to commission as what's called a surface warfare officer in the U.S. Navy. So through that role, I spent about 6 years on board ships deployed to various parts throughout the world. So lived all over the U.S. as well as all over the world. After getting out of the Navy, I decided that I wanted to do something in healthcare and specifically aligned on pharmaceuticals. So I did my summer internship at Johnson & Johnson, which was previously known as Janssen, but we've just rebranded within the pharma space. And then I am currently still there within their rotational leadership development program, about to start my second role in program in just about a month or so. Fun fact, I'm actually married to my high school sweetheart, Ashley, and somehow, we've been together, I think, almost 17 years now. So definitely, more to share later, but thanks again for all joining.
Great.
Wonderful.
So, go ahead, Mara.
No, I was just going to say, fabulous. Thank you for sharing, but I will turn it over to you, Professor Chan. Thank you.
Great. So let me give you a little bit of a background about the HPM program. It started in 2006 by Professor Cliff Kramer. And Professor Cliff Kramer still teaches a pharma class here. So he's been a wonderful resource and support for the program. The idea of the HPM program is to provide kind of continuity through faculty, through administrative support, and thinking longer term about the needs of students and alumni who are interested in healthcare. And we collaborate very closely with the HCIA Club, which Salone is currently a co-president and Vince was co-president a number of years ago. So what is the goal of HPM? We have a number of functionalities. First and foremost, our students, obviously, and our goal is to educate future business leaders. And so we have a robust curriculum. I think one of the strengths of Columbia Business School's healthcare program is that it is very broad. We have students and alumni who are working in every single facet of healthcare: payers, providers, pharma, digital health. We have entrepreneurs, investing, any part within healthcare, there are interests there. And so providing a curriculum that gives kind of that foundational knowledge for students who are interested in going into healthcare. We want to provide mentorship to our students. Shannon is spearheading the mentorship program, where we have alumni who will support current students on things like, how do they make the best of their time at CBS? How do they start thinking about the short-term future, but also the long-term future, and thinking how different opportunities may set them up for the success that they want post CBS. We work very closely with other schools within the university. So I'm actually an engineer by training. I teach at the business school, obviously, and my primary research collaborators are at the medical school, excuse me. And so I'm building more synergies across the excellent schools we have within Columbia University: School of Public Health, Medical School, Law School, Engineering School, Data Science Institute, and really bringing together minds that are interested in healthcare. So that's the unifying factor, but attack problems in very different ways. And because of how interdisciplinary healthcare is, I believe this is critical for innovation and impact to actually occur. I'll talk a little bit about some of the ways that we engage with industry leaders and bring people onto campus and have our students be able to interact with thought leaders both on campus and off of campus. One of the strongest things about Columbia Business School is being in New York City. And there are so many people who are innovating in healthcare within the tri-state area. And so we're able to connect very closely with them, whether it's having them teach classes. So we have practitioners who are teaching in the classroom, coming into the classroom as guest speakers, providing opportunities for our students for in-semester internships. Our course offerings, as I mentioned, are quite broad, and we have a wonderful list of faculty. Our full-time research active faculty are considered pioneers in the field, winning awards on really pushing the foundational knowledge forward. And our adjunct faculty are leaders in business that are running successful companies and really want an opportunity to connect with students through their classroom experiences. This is just an example of some of the companies where HPM students are coming from. And this is a subset, but I want to just have you take away from it what I was saying earlier, is that there's a lot of breadth amongst our students. And I think many of you are at a point in a career, you're passionate about healthcare, you're interested in engaging with the healthcare industry. Some of you know exactly what part of healthcare you want to go into post CBS, and some of you may be exploring. And so it's a network where we have a lot of students and alumni who transition within the healthcare industry post CBS. And so maybe post CBS you're going to go into consulting, but you're not sure longer term if you want to end up at pharma or in a provider, right? The network is vast enough and broad enough that wherever you plan to go, there's going to be people who have done it before you and who can provide that support and advice going forward. So some of the events that we run are our healthcare leadership series, where we bring in industry leaders to speak to students, but in a small, intimate setting. So we actually cap the number of students to 30. And so it's a more candid, casual conversation. I'd say this is one of the most popular events that we host because students really feel like they can connect with the speaker. You can see examples of prior speakers on our webpage. This year we had Brian Regan, who is the head of healthcare at Welsh Carson Anderson, the private equity fund. Salone actually moderated that event. At the end of this month, we have Michelle Kiley, who is at Merck and a head of pediatric vaccines there. And so it's a real opportunity to speak to leaders. We have a healthcare spotlight series where we highlight kind of top of mind areas within the healthcare space. Next week, we are hosting one which is on AI in heart health. And last year, we had one focused on women's health. And we are bringing founders, CEOs of companies to speak at those events. Later this month, so November is a very busy month for us, we are hosting the Gabelli Fund's CBS Healthcare Symposium. So Mario Gabelli is an alum of Columbia Business School. He also runs an investment fund. And so we have speakers that leaders in the field are going to come talk about kind of top of mind areas. What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? Both from an investment perspective, but really where could this industry, these areas grow? And so you can, again, look on our website and see what the program are and what type of people are coming. You can see it's really wonderful speakers. And they're also open. The Gabelli Funds event is open to the public. So we certainly encourage people who are interested to check it out. The students, we work very, very closely with them. The students put on an annual healthcare conference, but we work together to help provide the administrative support, but also programmatic support in connecting with alumni and leaders in the field to speak at that conference. That'll be happening in February. And then this year, we're having our second annual Digital Health Summit. And this is an opportunity where we bring in, again, founders, CEOs of leading digital health companies, as well as VCs, to really get a sense of where are the opportunities in this particular space. And so what we want to do through these events is give students the opportunity of hearing kind of that thought leadership. Where are the opportunities for them? Where's the industry going? But also to connect with leaders in the field to think through what they want to do next. I mentioned a little bit earlier about the alumni mentorship program, and I'm going to punt and ask Salone to talk about her experience with the mentorship program, if that's okay.
No, for sure. I love talking about this because it's truly been helpful for me. So last year I was matched with a mentor called Matt Cantor. He runs his own pharma company. And, I was like, I don't know how helpful he's going to be for me. We want to do different things. But at the same time, I was exploring, doing an in-semester internship at a digital health startup. He connected me to like a whole host of startups, and I ended up working with one of them called Sesame Care, which is a telemedicine platform last year. Just because he introduced me to them, I didn't even know about them because the US was a new geography for me. So I truly and I highly recommend this mentorship program because I'm still in touch with my mentor. He'll check in once every month to ask me if he can connect me to anybody in the space, how things are going. And yeah, this has been one of the highlights of my CBS experience for sure.
Great, thanks, Salone. And I think the alumni who engage in the mentorship program, it's a wonderful way for them to stay connected to the school, and they have real vested interest in trying to support our students and connect with them. So it's a great way to kind of build that support. And we try very hard to make sure we're matching students based on interest. I'm going to address one of the questions in the Q&A just because I think it's a pertinent one about the application to the HPM, and we'll have lots of opportunities for Q&A later as well. But HPM is an umbrella program that oversees all of the programs and curriculum within healthcare at CBS. Some students take advantage and do every single class and every single event, and others maybe will take a more targeted approach because they know that they want to go into one specific area, and so they take advantage of those particular things. So there's not a formal application process. I think you get as much as you put in, which is really what it comes down to. And being a part of HCIA, the student club, is a great way to connect with other students who are interested in healthcare, but also to work closely with HPM and take care of a lot of the advantage of a lot of the programs that we put on, because we speak with the co-presidents a lot about what are things that are top of mind. If we're thinking about the Spring Spotlight Series, are there topics that students are really excited about that maybe we can bring in speakers to highlight that interest? And so that's where the collaboration between HPM and the students come into play. So it's flexible. We actually had one of our students in the program was a CEO of a health system. And so he actually came to CBS and said he didn't need to take a lot of the healthcare classes because he's living and breathing it every single day. And he wanted to take advantage of some of the extracurricular activities. Vice versa, there may be some students who've been working in healthcare for a long time, but there's certain aspects of the healthcare system because, let's say, they were working in pharma the whole time and they don't fully understand the services side of things. They wanted to get a more holistic view and take classes in that way. So it's very flexible in that regard. The last thing that I'll say before I let Vince and Salone tell you a little bit about the student experience is just to highlight some of the wonderful alumni that have come through CBS and are leaders in the field. Mara, do you think you could go to the next slide? So I'm not going to read through all of this, but I would just, hopefully you can see from this list that even our alumni, we have many CEOs on this list, but covering all different aspects of healthcare, right? So we have digital health companies with K Health, with Medidata, we have pharmaceutical companies, we have investment with Kasdan Capital, and payers as well. So it's really a wonderful program to support students whose interests are broadly within the healthcare space. So I will stop and let.
Amazing. Thank you, Professor Chan. So yeah, in terms of the clubs I'm affiliated with, of course, as we mentioned, I'm the co-president of the Healthcare Industry Association, which has been, it's given me my closest friends and has actually made me consider so many professional opportunities which I wouldn't have otherwise. There's a whole bunch of other clubs which I'm a part of, some, cluster related, some soccer related, some related to drinking wine, but that's a part of the Columbia Business School experience, right? It's just meeting different people in different settings and really forming deeper connections with them. In terms of, the healthcare courses that I've taken, and Professor Chan spoke about this, CBS has really strong healthcare courses because we also have amazing professors as part of the business school, but we have adjunct professors who come in who are working in the day in the city and then come in to teach us, and there's a lot to learn from their experiences. One of the ones I learned a lot from is the one Professor Chan teaches, is the US healthcare systems and strategies. It's because it really lays out the entire US healthcare system for you. For me, coming in from a different geography, it was crucial to understand how Medicare works, how Medicaid works. And that really helped me understand what's happening in all of my other classes. You'll see a whole list here, a lot related to investing in healthcare and digital health and medical technologies, because that's a lot of what I've done before and a lot of what I want to do later. I think one thing which isn't spoken about enough is the network you get through the professors. All of the classes I've taken, all of the professors have been incredibly helpful. I, last month spoke to Professor Chan and was like, I don't know what I want to do next. I think maybe it's not investing, maybe it's something else. And they'll be, calm enough to sit you down, talk you through your options, and then actually connect you with people, which I found incredibly helpful. And, Professor Chan spoke about a lot of the programming here. Of course, I've been a part of the mentorship program, had the opportunity to moderate a bunch of, programs happening at CBS. I also, felt really cool, like to judge this Columbia Healthcare Ventures event. Learned a lot just about how people think through an investment pitch, what you can do when you're on the other side, because I've always been in the pitching side of things. So I think all goes to say that CBS has been exceptional in terms of just the healthcare programming that it offers. I'm going to pause there. And then, Maura, you want to go to the next slide? While the programming is amazing, I guess the best part about business school is the people you meet. So my closest friend at business school, in the picture you see in the middle, is Liz, who is the co-president of the healthcare club with me. You'll see all of my cluster mates in the picture on the side. I also got married this year, and a couple of my friends were at my wedding, which was, just goes to say the deep connections that you form. I really enjoy hiking. So we've gone hiking to different countries, different parts of the US. The little picture on the side is the gala that we have every year where we all dress up, and, it's like prom, but when you're like 28, which is a lot more fun. So yeah, that's about my CBS experience. Happy to answer more questions in the Q&A, but I'll hand it over to Vince for now.
Thanks, Salone. Yeah, again, just to go through, I won't repeat a lot of the same things. I feel like Salone and I were involved in many of the same things at CBS. But as mentioned, I was one of the co-presidents of the Healthcare Industry Association. In addition to that, I probably took on too much, I'll admit. I was the co-president of the Military and Business Association as well. And then was very involved with the Career Management Center Advisors, which for reference are second-year students who help first-year students with their job search, with resume updating, those types of things. So beyond that, I, of course, was also a member of the Illustrious Wine Club, which is a CBS favorite. And I think one of the things that are always talked about as one of the best experiences at CBS. In terms of electives taken, it's been a couple years now, but just thinking back to some of the great professors and to what Professor Chan had already mentioned about the scope of the courses offered, ranging from things that are, in the delivery space all the way through investing in healthcare and digital tech. So as a individual who pivoted into the healthcare industry, as I had shared, I come from a military background, so no healthcare, no real formal business experience prior to CBS. I decided that I would take every single healthcare elective that was offered. And I feel like through that have been able to use all of those learnings in my current role and be able to connect the dots on when we think about, even just in pharmaceuticals, how the policy environment shapes what we're thinking about, how the health systems environment shapes what we're thinking about from a business perspective. So I won't bore you with all of the details of every single class, but happy to answer any questions about any of these classes as well moving ahead. Yeah, and then I guess the exact same slides with different people in it, of course. But I think the one thing to talk about as it relates to CBS is truly the people. I think, if you see the top left picture here is my learning team. So I was a member of the Cobras, so Cluster C, and this is my learning team here up on the left. Of course, down on the bottom left is members of the healthcare club, but also enjoying some wine at our yearly event. Bottom middle there is myself and Jesse, who was my co-president within the HCIA. And then just, again, more experiences. We actually, during the spring break timeframe of my first year, we rented a catamaran in the Caribbean and we sailed it around ourselves. So with having some naval experience and some other friends who had spent many times on the water, we essentially chartered our own boat. So just one of the crazy, unique examples of things that you'll find yourself doing at business school. So happy again to answer any questions in the Q&A.
Wonderful. So we will now start transitioning to the Q&A, but wanted to put this slide up at the end. Thank you to everyone in the Healthcare and Pharmaceutical Management program for offering up your email for students to reach out to. So if you do have any questions that we're unable to get to in the next, 20 or so minutes, then you can, of course, reach out to them via email. But we'll go ahead and dive into the Q&A now. So I think there's one question that I'm seeing quite a few different times throughout the chat that's kind of similar to the kind of idea that, a lot of students aren't coming from a healthcare background, right? They're coming from a finance background or a consulting background. Like Salone mentioned, she's coming from a consulting background, right? So, what does that look like in terms of taking these courses? How is that transition for these students as they navigate taking these different healthcare specific courses? If Professor Chan, you wouldn't mind chiming in here, and if anyone else has something to add, please do.
Yeah, I'll start. I think actually that this is one of the reasons why I love healthcare at Columbia Business School, is that it's very welcoming and open. I would say there are a lot of students, Vince himself included, who had no experience in healthcare prior to coming to business school, but were drawn to the mission of the industry, drawn to the innovation that's taking place in healthcare. I mean, the last 3 years have really highlighted and pushed the envelope in terms of what can be going on within healthcare and the impact that it can have. And so I think there's a lot of ways that students who don't have exposure to healthcare prior to business school can really take advantage of what HPM has to provide. So first is through the curriculum, right? So the academic experience of getting exposure, learning about what is healthcare, and it is a messy industry. I'm not going to lie. There are so many different players that have different incentives. And so that can make, for an outsider, make it seem like broken, frankly, sometimes. But getting an understanding of where those different players are coming from, why are things the way that they are, opens your eyes to the real opportunities to innovate and make things better. And I'm an optimist. I sometimes in my class, I'm sure Vince and Salone can both say it, we're talking, I'm like, I know that seemed a little bit depressing, but what this means is that there's a real opportunity to make changes and have a massive, massive impact to bettering lives and also making profits at the same time. On top of the curriculum, we have the extracurricular programming. And so I would say for students who don't have healthcare experience prior to coming business school, this is a great opportunity to see what are people doing in different parts of the healthcare industry, right? What are the exciting things happening in pharma? What are the exciting opportunities in digital health, provider space, whatever is the area? I like to tell a story. I had a student come to me a couple of years ago, had been consulting and working in the tech industry prior to business school, and said to me, I'm really interested in learning more about what's going on in healthcare, but I have no exposure to it prior to business school. I have no experience in it. Would anybody be interested in hiring me? And I said, you know what? People in health, like you are exactly the type of person people in the healthcare industry want, right? You are passionate, you are smart, you have great skill set that people in healthcare actually are looking for. And so he was able to get a great job. Actually, he met with Salone a couple of weeks ago to also provide some feedback on that transition. And so I think it kind of pays it forward, but it's a pretty common story. And so I want to make sure people are not intimidated, that it seems the people around them are able to throw around all of these acronyms. It can feel intimidating if you don't know what, FFS means, fee for service, right? But ultimately, these are just terms that you will learn over time. And it's really about being smart, innovative, passionate, and there's going to be an opportunity for you. Our healthcare system is in dire need of more smart people. And so do not get deterred.
Amazing. Thank you so much for diving into that. I see a couple of questions kind of surrounding, and I know we touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but if you wouldn't mind diving a little bit more into the way that you participate in the healthcare and pharmaceutical management program, right? So is it, and I know the answer, but I'm kind of posing it from the student perspective. Is it its own, track or major, quote unquote, that students can take part in? Is there an application process? If you could just dive into, again, a little bit more about that for the students to have a little clarity there.
You want from the student's perspective or from my perspective?
Oh, from anyone on the panel's perspective. But you would be great, Professor Chan.
Professor Chan, do you want to start with maybe the structure of HPM versus HCIA, and then I'm happy to touch on like what it looks like from a student, if that works.
Sure. So I'd say the biggest difference, and it can be confusing for students and prospective students, certainly. So HCIA is the student club. And as a consequence, because students are here for 2 years, every year leadership turns over, but they are obviously very close to the students. They are the students. And so they know firsthand what is top of mind of students. HPM is led by myself and Shannon and Sam, that provides kind of continuity so that we can make plans in the short term, but also in the longer term. How does everything connect with each other? We can make sure that we build those lasting longer term relationships with alumni so that they keep coming back, with industry partners so they keep coming back, because they have a common contact every time and kind of a consistency in terms of opportunities to engage with the program.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to describe it. I think as a student, obviously being a leader within the HCIA club, the student-facing organization, what that looks like was working directly with Professor Chan or healthcare professors within the HPM program to organize events such as the annual Healthcare, Pharmaceutical Management, and HCIA conference as one of the keynote events of the year. When you think about the student experience as it relates to the more HCIA side of the healthcare ecosystem at school, those tend to be anywhere from professional events to things that could be a bit more social led. So things that we did as a club were very much culture building, doing dinner events, those types of things. So I think as you think about them, they are two distinct entities, one being student facing, the other one being faculty led, but they're very much intertwined and very much part of the whole system that exists at CBS.
Great, thank you so much. I'd love to kind of hear this. There's a couple questions regarding the digital health landscape, and specifically what resources are available for students looking to be recruited into the digital health landscape, as well as what that looks like on campus. So if Professor Chan, if you wanted to provide any context there, and Salone, I don't know if you have any, friends, or if you are kind of thinking about this, this kind of the digital health sphere. I think a few students would love to hear your perspectives on that.
Absolutely. So no surprise, digital health is a popular area that a lot of students are interested in. The truth of the matter is that recruiting for digital health is more typically what we refer to as enterprise recruiting. So rather than big companies who come onto campus and are planning on recruiting 20 to 30 CBS students, it is through meeting with people, utilizing your network, the CBS network, to connect, because a lot of the digital health companies maybe are doing just-in-time recruiting. So they're not going to be recruiting in September for a June internship. You're going to be doing that later in the springtime, or that they don't have a formal internship program. And so again, you have to take these more informal channels. So one of the things that we have done, which is why we did it last year and plan to do it again this spring, is a digital health summit. And so we strategically place it in that spring period where we brought in CEOs and VCs focused on digital health to really, one, give exposure and what are things top of mind, but to bring together people at a time when those connections are really crucial for our students who are looking for opportunities in the space. We also have a vast network of people, alumni, who are working in the digital health space. And so I think that often the way to kind of get your foot in the door can be through in-semester internships. And so we have a number of students who've been able to take advantage of that. And I also think that that's another example of how New York City is a asset to Columbia Business School. The other thing that I would say is, I personally, that's an area of research that I focus on. So I collaborate very closely with health systems. I have connections with startups. And so I do my best to try to help triage students to various resources so they can get the support that is needed in this area.
Yeah, and just to add to what everything Professor Chan said, the leadership series that HPM organizes, a lot of it is also around digital health. So last year we had Kate Ryder, the CEO of Maven, come in, which is one of the largest women's health startups that's out there, right? So you can use those as networking opportunities. In addition to that, from the student side, so the HCIA has a job board where we constantly post. It's mainly for digital health job postings. So we have our careers team scouting websites of various digital health companies and putting those job postings on our job board. And last but not the least, as I mentioned, the mentorship program is definitely very, very helpful because as Professor Chan mentioned, digital health is very network driven. They don't have like a structured hiring process. So both the mentorship program from the HPM side, but HCIA also has a mentorship program where we pair you with second-year students. So we would essentially pair you with second-year students who have been in digital health, and they can introduce you to the companies they interned at and things like that.
I think
Great.
the
Thank you
only
both.
last thing I would
Oh,
add to that potentially is through the academic setting. So there's one course in particular that comes to mind. It's Ray Falchi's class that talks about healthcare IT specifically. And every single week I recall back to school, he would have a different speaker in there that would be more than willing to connect with students, before class, after class, and even offered sometimes positions for in-semester internships. So I think there's lots of informal opportunities to network there as well.
Actually, thank you, Vince, for bringing that up. I will say, I mentioned that we have some fabulous adjunct faculty who are working full time in industry and then also coming onto campus to teach. And it's been a great opportunity for our students to connect with the professional network of those faculty as well. Sometimes they go work, have internships or full-time positions at those companies post CBS. But sometimes when maybe that particular company is not hiring, they've actually, some of those faculty I know have helped students get jobs at other companies. So it's a great opportunity. One other thing I will say is, because Vince, this happened after you graduated, we introduced a class called Investing in Digital Health Startups. And so it's a block week class where founders and VCs will come together in class to talk about opportunities. And so it's a great way to actually learn more about what's happening in the space, but also to connect and build that network.
great. Thank you all so much for diving into that question. That was super informative. The next question, I'm going to combine a few students' questions and ask about how HPM kind of collaborates and works with, if they do, other centers, programs on campus. So, specifically, I see a question regarding the Lang Center, if there's any collaboration there between HPM and Lang. For folks who don't know, that's our entrepreneurship center on campus. There's a question about abroad opportunities, kind of specifically in the healthcare sphere. So if there's any collaboration with Chazen there, which is our Institute for Global Business for folks who don't know. So would love to get some perspective on kind of how HPM has over time or historically collaborated with different offices and programs on campus.
Yeah, so there's a lot of collaborations, and it just depends on the year and what's happening, where that comes out. So this year we have been co-hosting a couple of events with the Bernstein Center on diversity, equity, and inclusion within the healthcare space. Next week, I mentioned we're having this spotlight series on AI and heart health. And so we have a VC who is coming, who is invested in these types of technologies, and he's having an open office hour. So that's something that we're also, we've spoken with Lang to make sure that students in the Lang Center are able to take advantage of this particular resource. A couple of years ago, Lang hosted a startup week, and one of the events was on healthcare. So that was a clear opportunity for collaboration. In 2019, I believe it was, there was a Chazen trip to Asia that focused on healthcare. And so this was kind of taking advantage of the opportunities that Chazen trips to go visit countries and companies in those countries. But this one was a industry-specific track on healthcare. And so that was a great collaboration opportunity. We also collaborate very closely with the Digital Future Initiative, again, through kind of our digital health interests. DFI helped sponsor our Digital Health Summit last year, and we have like a bunch of various collaborations. So the short answer is there are a lot of opportunities because healthcare as an industry touches on many different things. And so we definitely want to take advantage of the fact that there are other centers and programs within the business school that it makes sense to collaborate with, or even outside of the business school. So, last year, the Cancer Center also helped with the Digital Health Summit because we were talking about opportunities in cancer care around digital health, right? So we have a lot of connections.
Great. Thank you so much. That was super comprehensive. And I love learning about how all the different ways at CBS that the programs are collaborating with each other. I think it really kind of it touches on our next question nicely. I'd love to get Salone and Vince's perspective on what the just kind of general HPM, HCIA culture is, and how that's similar to the culture of the rest of the CBS clubs and, ways to get involved. We in admissions love to use the word collaboration and collaborative when we're discussing kind of how the CBS experience is, but I'd love to hear from the student perspective, kind of how you feel that it fits into the greater CBS MBA experience.
Yeah, I'm happy to start, Vince, and then hand it over to you. But I think we're very fortunate at HCIA that we also have HPM happening, because usually as a club, you're running 20,000 things at the same time. With HPM, it's maybe 30,000 things, but we're very supportive of Professor Chan, Shannon, and Sam, because even like, just to give you an example, right, when we're planning our digital health conference, it's difficult as students to have all the connections to get the right speakers in. But every Monday during a meeting, everyone from the HPM team attends their conference, tells us who they're connected to, and they put us in touch with them. Professor Chan just helped us get a keynote speaker too. And then HPM also has a larger HPM advisory board, which is a whole host of people who are very senior in the healthcare system who really want to see healthcare at Columbia succeed. And they're getting more and more involved in how they can start helping students. So a lot of them are involved in the mentorship program. A lot of them want to come on campus to, be a part of various events for us. So I want to say, just to summarize, HPM is like, we're lucky to have HPM supporting us because we have a lot of involvement and support from the school side too, versus there's a lot of other clubs which have to run on their own. And it just allows us to offer a lot more to students versus what we could do with our power alone.
Thanks, Lenny. Maybe I'll take it in a slightly different direction that I've been out for a couple years now. But as I think about the culture specifically within HCIA, HPM, I think of it almost as a microcosm of the school in and of itself. And I think Salone had mentioned that, some of her best friends were part of the healthcare club. And I think very, very similarly, I think about those individuals as like-minded, mission-driven, diverse, and I think that's representative of the student population as a whole. I think one thing, if it's still the same, Salone, I imagine it is that the Healthcare Industry Association is one of the largest clubs on campus, spanning roughly 300 students. So I think in so many ways, there's just such this interest across the board from all CBS students to want to give back, to pass it forward, and those types of things. So I think HCIA being no different, and that was the experience that I had as well, and still remain very, very close with many of those individuals that were part of the club.
Amazing. Thank you both for sharing that perspective. This question, I'd love to hear from Professor Chan and Shannon and Sam. If you have any perspective that you wanted to weigh in on this, I'd love to hear that as well. But also, no worries if not. I'm curious, there's a student asking, and I think this is a good question and might relate to a couple of the other questions in the chat as well. What would be the benefit and what is the difference of coming to a school like CBS, getting an MBA and doing classes through a healthcare pharmaceutical management program versus going into an MPH program and studying specifically that kind of healthcare sphere? Would it be more the operations side versus the scientific side? What does that actually kind of look like? And what would your perspective on that be for students who are weighing those different options?
That's a great question. I mean, I think we, Columbia Business School as an entity is one of the top, and according to the Financial Times, the top business school. And so you have this general management skill set that you will come away with post CBS. And so taking advantage of both the breadth of knowledge across different business facets, but also having real depth within healthcare is something that you can get at CBS. Which maybe is not as well supported in a school like public health, which is more focused on kind of the public health aspect specifically, right? And maybe has a little bit more of a scientific bent to it. I think that there is also support in a different way. I mentioned a lot of students, even if you're definitely going into healthcare, the network of having a broader community can be very beneficial in the sense that healthcare touches literally everybody's lives. And so whatever functionality you're going to have, so, example, Vince is in pharma, marketing, operations, finance, like you need to have knowledge in all of those areas in order to really fully understand what's happening there. Similarly, even if you're going to go on the provider side of things, if you want to, even if you're going to be a practicing clinician, running a department, you need to understand kind of leadership, team management, finances as well, operations as well. And so having that breadth is very valuable. We also then are able to connect very well with the healthcare business industry more specifically, I would say.
I think I can
Great.
add to that, I guess, just from the business perspective. I think for better or for worse, I think the U.S. healthcare system is a for-profit industry, and therefore the common thread that unites everything. Professor Chen talked a lot about the misaligned incentives, for example, or the different parts of the healthcare ecosystem where there's opportunities. I think truly a foundational understanding of business, finance, and all of the pieces that connect and drive the industry, I think would be accomplished with an MBA, as opposed to something like an MPH, for example, where you're touching one pillar of the healthcare ecosystem. So I think that common thread, the scope that you would get from an MBA is truly, I think, the advantage. As I think about my current role, just being able to put all of those pieces together and connect the dots, I think that's what makes a strong business commercial leader of the future, truly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We have time for a couple more questions. Thank you to everyone who has been asking such phenomenal questions in the chat box. We unfortunately definitely won't get to everyone's questions today, but I'll go back to the slide with HPM's email so you can reach out to them after the session if you did have a specific question you wanted to get answered. But I think this is actually, I think I see Professor Chan typing in, and I think I can find a way to combine a couple questions here, kind of specifically regarding not only our executive in residence program, which for folks who don't know, C-suite level executives will work with current students and kind of share their expertise in any specific field, as well as that alumni mentorship program. What does that look like in terms of how specific students can be in helping connect with different alumni, right? So when they're being matched in this alumni mentorship program, how does that work? Are they able to kind of say, okay, this is like, for example, is this student wrote it out well? Would you like to be mentored by a pharma alumni rather than a payor, or would it be a little more broad? So would love to kind of hear from your perspective there.
Yeah, so we do our absolute best to align interest. We have an intake form for students to kind of check what is their top priority area, and then what are some other areas that they are interested in. And then similarly, we have the mentors kind of say, this is my primary area, and I also have experience in these other areas. And so we actually try to match based on that. We also provide both the mentor and the mentee the opportunity to provide background color about themselves. And so Sam and Shannon actually utilize that information to try to make sure that there's as much alignment as possible in interest in area.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, it does. Thank you. I'm just scrolling through to see what maybe our last question could be. I'd love to kind of hear maybe from everyone's perspective. We'll kind of end on a, kind of more general positive note. I'd love to hear from this, from Salone and from Vince, what your favorite component of your time with HCIA or HPM has been, whether that be the class opportunities, the club opportunities, whatever it may be. I think that'd be a good way to end the session, to hear a little bit about that from you guys.
Yeah, for me, there's an absolute clear answer to this is the people I've met. Like my closest friends at CBS, and I'm hoping throughout the rest of my life, are from the HCIA program. It's just because HCIA, outside of focusing on your career, has such a focus on community. So we have all of these pod dinners and lunches, and Vince had a picture where he was drinking wine with his HCIA mates. So yeah, it has to be the people, and that's what will lead to, even opportunities later on in life, right? These are people who are going to go on to, I don't know, be CEOs of various companies, lead different verticals in companies too. So yeah, it has to be the friends I've made through HCIA.
Salone has the easier way of going first. I won't say the people again, just to give a different answer. As I think back to my experience at CBS, of course, beyond the people, I think about the opportunities as well. I came to business school to be challenged and to learn and to put myself out there to pivot essentially to another career and to a different industry specifically. And I think back to just my ability to get ingrained into the healthcare ecosystem and then eventually becoming the co-president of HCIA. I think really take advantage of some of the opportunities that business school presents. A lot of the skills that I learned as leading in a club, and I think examples of that include things like leading without authority or being able to, accomplish a mission, are all things that I'm using in my day-to-day role on the other side of business school. So I think back to the opportunities and just those things that may sound, not necessarily too important now, but you'll realize are things that are really, instrumental in career development. So I think that would be the best part, aside from, of course, the people that I've met and still remain close with.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining this webinar today, and thank you to our fabulous panelists. This was great. I feel like I have learned so much about this program, and so I'm sure the prospective students and folks on the call have as well. I'll go back to the HPM slide with their contact information in a moment, but I did just want to end with, if you did have any specific admission related questions, you know where to find us. You can send us an email at our apply email, but I know there were quite a few questions that we didn't get a chance to answer today. So please feel free to reach out to the fabulous team at HPM. They will, I'm sure, be more than willing to answer those questions. But thank you all so much again for joining us. This webinar will be posted on our website in the coming weeks. So if you had to join late or had to leave early, you can come and watch us there. But thank you all so much again, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy November.
Maura, if I can just add one thing here, if any of y'all want to reach out to the folks at HCIA, our entire board is on our website, and you can find any of us on LinkedIn. We're happy to connect with prospective students and answer your questions. So feel free to reach out there too.
Amazing. I love that. And that reminds me, thank you, Salone. Feel free to use our contact a student page as well. So you have plenty of people to connect with if you have any of your questions. So thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your day.